Abilene, Kansas, 1879. A news report goes out in the Abilene Gazette to the community. It reads, "A few days ago, while sitting in the office of J.E. Bonebreak, we were agreeably surprised to hear Mr. Bonebreak's little daughter playing a fine piece of music on the piano at his residence several blocks away." The success of the Browns Electric Company in 1898 led the residents of Abilene to ask the Browns to expand into telephone service.
And in 1899, the city of Abilene gave them a contract to put in a new company. And in the first year, C.L. Brown started to figure out how he was going to make this company work.
C.L.'s father continued with the electric company, and C.L. started the Brown Telephone Company in 1899.
He and his father got into an argument about borrowing money. His dad, Jacob, didn't like borrowing money, but C.L. Brown convinced him that to make money, you got to be able to take the risk of investing other people's money and paying back in dividends.
Clayson L. Brown, known to most as C.L., moved from Pennsylvania to Abilene, Kansas with his family as a young boy in 1880.
Now, C.L. Brown was born in 1872, and they moved here to Kansas, to the Abilene area when he was a small boy.
In 1881, when Brown was 10 years old, his arm was caught in a corn grinder while helping his father with work.
And 2 days later, they had to amputate his right arm. At that point in time, C.L. wanted to be a farmer. For most boys about that, 10 years of age, that would have been devastating. But for C.L. Brown, it was just a challenge.
In later years, after making his fortune, Brown would say,
"If I'd had 2 arms, I might have been a fairly decent Kansas farmer."
After graduating high school in 1890, Brown spent the next few years in a variety of positions. He attended business college in Burlington, Iowa, found work as a store clerk, taught in a small school, and ran a creamery in Wichita. While it appears that Brown solely focused on building his business empire for the first 20 years, it became apparent in the 1920s that he deeply cared for his employees and community.
And one of the things that he made all of his employees do, which at first the employees were very upset with it, was he made them save 10% of all their earnings.
Advice was tried and it failed. So, after considerable consideration and investigation, I determined that if the employee would not save voluntarily, it was perfectly justifiable for his own good to make him save.
One of the stories that I read about that was one of the girls that worked for him came and asked him for a loan because she couldn't buy bread for her family. And so he started thinking, well, they need to be able to save that money. So he basically told them everybody was going to start saving 10%.
Brown formed a savings committee to monitor all employee savings. David Eisenhower was hired to serve as Savings Committee Secretary. While not a wealthy man, Eisenhower was known for his conservative spending habits. Of course, the Eisenhower family would reach future fame due to David's son, President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Under the Savings Committee, employees were told to save 10% or seek employment elsewhere. After 5 years with the savings plan, 1,357 employees saved an average of $14.81 every month, an amount larger than 10% of most salaries. Loyalty pins were awarded to all employees who made serious efforts to save.
His employees who kind of grumbled about it, but he made them save a percentage of their paychecks, which eventually they were thankful for.
And because of that, those employees that were working before the Great Depression, they weren't as suffering as a lot of Americans were because they had saved some money for hard times that came about.
As another project, a welfare department created by Brown assisted residents in his community who were in poverty.
His way of doing business was very innovative. Everyone trusted him. More and more companies wanted him to become their manager. And his empire reached from the Rocky Mountains to the Allegheny Mountains.
Many of his companies were in financial trouble due to the effects of the Great Depression. However, Brown had built a strong business foundation, and several of his businesses began to see profits again by 1936. Of his 85 companies, all but 6 survived the Great Depression.
He was quite an entrepreneur, and then he started from being a farm boy. That lost part of his arm, and so he couldn't farm, and so that was a blessing for millions of people, probably. So now we have electricity in this area. We would eventually probably had it, but we got an early start.
In 1876, the first patent for a successful telephone was awarded to a young inventor by the name of Alexander Graham Bell. Bell worked diligently to construct telephone lines and provide service to as many people as possible. Bell soon had trouble satisfying the needs of his rural customers. As soon as his patent for the telephone expired, independent telephone companies began popping up across the nation and found great success through improving Bell's designs and local customer service.
Like many rural telephone companies throughout Kansas and rural America, it was people coming together that did not have service, that the large companies, the RBOCs, had no intention of serving, but came together as concerned individuals to get telephone service out into the rural America.
In Kansas, small exchanges in communities such as Centralia, Abilene, and Madison found great success through improving Bell's designs and local customer service. This was certainly the case for the small town of Abilene, Kansas. In just a few short years, Abilene was covered in crisscrossing telephone wires. As Brown's company grew, he offered jobs to many Abilene residents in a variety of positions. The role of a lineman was important to any telephone company. These men generally worked as a crew of 12 to 14. Sometimes under harsh conditions, these crews worked with primitive tools to erect simple poles and lines. Operators were also a necessity for any telephone company. Switchboards were located at a central office, while for others, they were operated out of homes. A position primarily held by women, many operators worked a 24-hour shift, connecting circuits for their callers.
When we slept, we had to sleep close to the switchboard. We worked 24 hours a day, all the time, except when we wanted to go someplace, we had to get somebody else to come, just like a babysitter. It was simple to operate. One long ring and a whole bunch of shorts means come and listen. And then we'd tell them that the peaches were in at the Wingard store, or if there was a fire. Of course, people didn't use their telephones like they do these days. The kids hardly ever talked on the telephone. Except when the boys got old enough to call and ask for a date, then they would, call, and people would call and visit with each other.
Every man tries to accumulate wealth, and it's all to buy 6 feet of ground. Others enjoy the fruits of his effort, and he can never see how much they enjoy it. But I want to see people enjoy mine while I'm alive.
In 1926, Brown and his sisters, Jenny and Della, formed the Brown Memorial Foundation.
I don't think a lot of people realize the impact that he did make on Abilene. He had Brown's Park out here that classmates of mine remembered well. Then the Brown Memorial Home, which is still full force and a tribute to his parents. So he did a tremendous amount for Abilene that people aren't aware of.
With the foundation, the Brown family built a stately retirement community, a park with a 20-acre lake, boys and girls camps, a golf course, and a zoo. All of the park's attractions were open to the public free of charge and were very popular.
This came from his own pocket and was a tremendous asset to Abilene, and I'm sure it brought many people to Abilene that wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Crowds of nearly 5,000 rushed to the park on summer weekends. At a time when many Kansans did not own a car, the park saw as many as 15,000 people during a July 4th celebration.
This is one way that he gave back to the community so people could enjoy his fortunes or his good luck that he had throughout his life.
Today, Kansas independent telecommunications companies follow this tradition set by Brown. Many donate to their communities in a variety of ways.
That was always kind of a dream of mine to see Tri-County, a rural telephone company, take on more of a leadership role in these small communities.
Kansas telecommunications companies donate to charities, support local events and organizations, and offer college scholarships to young Kansans.
We've always been extremely active in our schools. We believe that is the future of our rural communities. And what better place to invest in other than our youth?
C.L. Brown threw everything he could into his philanthropy work, but after a fight with heart trouble and illness, he died on November 12, 1935.
C.L. Brown was an amazing person. He had tremendous foresight into what the future brought forth for Abilene. He was a great humanitarian, and what he has done in the past is going to remain here for a long time.
Part of the Brown legacy, I think, is, again, going back to his management style. The way he developed his independent company has allowed other independent companies to take his model and expand on it.
Today, the way we tie our communities to the rest of the world and what it has done to help these communities that we live in is through fiber optics. We have a project currently going on. We hope to have completed that project by the end of this year in tying 100% of our subscribers to fiber. And that's fiber to the home.
While many global communications providers exist in Kansas, the majority of the state receives service from one of over 30 local independent telecommunications companies.
With more and more things becoming only online, the broadband connections become vital for many people, and it's going to be more so in the near future. And we've created that path, and we continue to invest in those types of technologies to keep our patrons tied to the rest of the world.
While they may not be as large as national or global corporations, Kansas independents remain on the cutting edge and are still innovators in the field today. Independents do all of this while being able to have a close relationship with their customers, and will continue to do so for many years to come.
I would hope to say that the next generation that takes it from us will carry on that same mentality, to give them more as a customer. Treat them like families. Treat them like you would your friends.